Our speaker this morning is Gerald Parriott. He worked with Hot Valley Bible College, now known as Summit Christian College, for 40-some years, I believe, and missionary in Australia for a while. So we're glad to have him back again. Thank you very much. Gerald Parriott.
You're welcome.
It's been a year. Glad to be back. Good to see you folks again. Thank you for the privilege of sharing with you from the Word of God this morning. I handed out a sheet of paper. I think sometimes I have gone to church and heard the message, and by the time I got home, if somebody would have said, well, what was the message about? I'd say, well, I remember, and so just in case, if you go to sleep, you still have part of it that you can take home with you. And if you forget, then you can take one of it. This is the idea that I have in the message this morning when we're looking at unlimited love. Now, we talk about love a lot, but how about unlimited? How about if there are no reservations? How about if, well, I do, but, well, I would if. We're not talking about that. We're talking about unlimited love, and what I'm looking at here is from the book of Ruth. By the way, the book of Ruth has about 85 verses. So I hope when you go home, the way to remember the message is to go ahead and read that short book. 85 verses. Love unlimited. Let me tell you the story, and then I'd like to apply it and see what we learn from it when we think about unlimited love. And the story starts out, and in Sunday school class, I talked with them about the Moabites, because Ruth was from the tribe of Moab. I'm not going to go into the background and history of that, but those of you who were in the Sunday school class and kind of got the background, I'll just say this, that the tribe of Moab started by the son Moab, who was an illegitimate son of Lot. They settled east of the Jordan River. And the time that I'm looking at here with Ruth is, and you'll notice there's a question on there, when did Ruth live? Ruth lived at the time of the Judges, when we look at the church history. And the time of the Judges was an unusual, unique time in that this is the way it's described in the last verse of the book of Judges. It says, everyone did that he saw fit in his own time. In other words, I could put it in today's language, everybody did what he wanted to do. Don't tell me what to do. I'll do what I want to do. Everybody did that which is right in his own eyes. So that's when Ruth is living during that time. So what happens? It takes place in Jerusalem, and they have a famine. And Elimelech, an Israelite, takes his two sons and his wife. His wife is Naomi. The two sons are Mahlon and Chilion. He takes them and goes to Moab, which is about 100 miles from home. Kind of like going from here to, what's 100 miles from Alliance? Rapid City? A little farther. 104. Okay. Anyway, it took off for 100 miles and is on across the river, kind of across North Platte, well, no, not the North Platte. But anyway, across the river, Jordan River, over to Moab. And there, for about 10 years, during that time, Elimelech, the husband of Naomi, died. And during that time, the sons married Moabite women, and during the 10 years, they both died. So here is Naomi left with the two daughters-in-law, Ruth and Oprah. And what does she have left? So she decides to return to Jerusalem area, back to Israel. them have lost their husbands, but they decided to go with her. On the way, she started thinking about it, and she said, you don't need to go with me. You need to stay here. Stay here with your people, and you know, they could probably get married again. They've only been married 10 years or less. No, we're going to go with you. But she kept on. You need to go back. You need to stay here. Finally, Oprah did. She said, okay, I'm going to go back. But in your paper this morning, Ruth said these words, don't ask me to leave you and turn back. I will go wherever you go, live wherever you live. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. I will die where you die, and I'll be buried there. May the Lord punish me severely if I allow anything but death to separate us. Now that has become a very familiar passage of Scripture to many, many people, talking about love. But let's go over that again. You all have a copy of it. Read it with me. This is what Ruth said, and this looks to me like unlimited love, without exception. Read with me, will you? Don't ask me to leave you and turn back. I will go wherever you go and live wherever you live. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. I will die where you die, and will be buried there. May the Lord punish me severely if I allow anything but death to separate us. I'd love for that to be the beginning of what we're talking about when we talk about unlimited love. Because she is now with Naomi. This is where I'm going. There aren't any exceptions. This is where I'm going. So they get back to Israel. And here we are. And this is what Ruth says. She says that when they greeted her when she got back home from 10 years being gone, oh, we're just so glad to see you. And this is what she said. Don't call me Naomi, which means sweet one. Instead, I want you to call me Mara, M-A-R-A, which means bitter one. Because God has indeed made me bitter. He has taken my husband, both of my sons from me, and when I left Bethlehem, I was full. And now I'm returning, and I'm returning empty. You see what she's doing? She is blaming God. She said, because God has indeed made me bitter. He's taken my husband. He's taken my boys. Have you ever done that? When something bad or something tragic happens to you, have you ever blamed God and said, why did you do this, God? May I suggest if we learn from the book of Naomi, that's not the way you react. The way you react is the way Ruth reacted. Your God will be my God. That He is the one. He's the one that loves me. He's not the one that is causing and making all these bitterness. So Naomi, we can learn from her, don't blame God for everything that happens to us. Well, they get back to Israel, so what takes place? Well, what are you going to do? You've been gone 10 years. Here's something. What is she going to do? You see, when they left, they had an inheritance. Because each of the tribes of Israel and the people there, when they came into the promised land, received some land. And they still have some land. No, they don't. It was evidently sold. And so well, now what do they have? What actually happens is that Ruth leaves Naomi and she starts to work. And how is she going to work? She's going out into the wheat and the barley fields because it's harvest time, and she's after they go through and harvest, there's always some that's left, that's scattered, and people don't have any money, they could go out and take care and pick that up. All that was left by those who were reapers. You see, they didn't have food stamps. God took care of it. He said, you leave some in the fields for the poor. So the poor were taken care of. Today we don't do that, and so we have food stamps and other help that the government takes care of. But in that time, Ruth was a very ambitious and energetic individual, young lady it appears to be, because she went out and did that. While she was working in one of the fields, a man came out, and it was Boaz. Boaz came out, and he saw her, and he went to the one who was in charge of the reaping and said, who's that over there? Oh, that's the one that's Moabitess. She came back home with Naomi from Moab. And he said, I want you to leave a little extra. You just leave a little extra where she is when she's picking it up. Reminds me of a little bit of the characteristic of Moab, right? He didn't have to. Generosity apparently was a part of the life of Boaz. He was actually a relative of Naomi. We're not told what relative he is, but he is a relative because as the story goes on, and he had extra left, she went home, told Naomi she had more than usual. Naomi's thinking, where did you get all of that? Told her. Oh, and she thought, Boaz is a relative. And that brought to mind the idea of, it says right here, what is the kinsman redeemer law? Boaz is a relative, and this redeemer law is this. It said that if the husband died and left a widow, then the nearest relative could buy the land back again, and that way it would stay in the family, because when they bought it back again, then it would go back to the son or a man in the whole situation. So she's thinking about that, and he's a relative, and so the whole story that goes and takes place where Ruth is continuing to reap, and then Naomi gives her information. She said, now, you find out where, after everything's all done and all the gatherings in, you find out where Boaz sleeps. And I want you to go there after he's asleep, so he doesn't know anything about it, and uncover his feet, and you lay there at his feet. Now, we're not talking about seduction or other things. She has told Ruth what to do, and the whole outcome is that he wakes up and finds her there and says, what are you doing there, and so forth and so on, and realizes and is told about the whole situation. And he says, you know, I can redeem that, but it's not legal for me to do that because there's somebody else that's a closer relative than I am, and they need to have opportunity first. Okay. So I went and asked that person, and said, oh yes, I'll take care of that. I'll buy it back. And he said, well, Boaz said, well, in addition, there's Ruth. Oh, no, I can't do that. And Boaz says, then I will. And so he does. And to do that, he has a meeting of the folks at the gate of the city and so on. And he figures it out. He has the fellows that come that, I suppose, what's the city council? Is that kind of it? You know, the ones that were made decisions there for the people. And I wrote it down here. I wanted to find it. Of what he said to them, these words, and the city leaders all there, he said this, you are witnesses that today I have bought from Naomi all the property of Elimelech, Chilion, and Mahlon, and I have purchased Ruth to be my wife, and she can have a son to carry on the family name of her dead husband and to inherit the family property here in his hometown. And you are my witnesses of this today. Then the next verse says, then the leaders and all the people standing there said, we are witnesses. May the Lord make the woman who is now coming into your home like Rachel and Leah, from whom all the nation of Israel have descended. May you be great and famous in Bethlehem. So now, what has happened? It's bought by land, so it stays in the family. It's taking care of that. How can that be? I mean, Ruth is not an Israelite. She didn't grow up in a Christian Jewish family. How can she marry into the Israelites? Well, it's been happening all along. There have been Israelites marrying Moabite women, and as I talked to the class, it continues on down through the centuries of time that Moabite women married into the Israelis. The difference here is what Ruth said. The difference in Ruth is, your God will be my God. And that's not the answer of the regular Moabite people. They were idolatrous people, and as you read the history, when they married into the Jewish people, they converted the Jewish people to their own religion, so they became idolatrous, and it caused a lot of problems for the Israelite nation. But Ruth here has expressed a love that is unlimited. She's leaving family. She left her homeland. She is a foreigner. She is going to another land with another people, and she says, your God is my God. What can we learn from this? We can learn one thing, that we can change. People out there that have never heard the word, some have heard the word and know about us, but they don't know anything else. They can change. That's what I'm saying this morning. We changed. Thank God that He allows us to become a person without a background that is hanging on, telling us that we're sinners and that we're lost and so on. We have a God who has showed unlimited love to me and to you. I have no past now to be ashamed of. It's been forgiven. I am a new person in Christ when I come to Him and obey His word. She changed religions. She became a follower of God. And she expresses an unlimited love for Naomi and for God, or she wouldn't have left her home. Well, what's the beauty of all of this? The beauty of it is that Boaz and Ruth, since he said, I bought her too, marries her. Remember, she said, so they had the same God. They married, and what happens? This is the beauty of the whole thing. When they get married, they have a son. His name happens to be Obed. Oh, well, so what? Well, Obed got married, and he had a son. His name was Jesse. Oh. And then Jesse got married, and he had a son whose name was David. Here. Now, I want to ask you, how can that be? I mean, because David then goes on to have sons, and Solomon, and so on. And then in Matthew, the first chapter, Boaz and Ruth are mentioned in the lineage of Jesus. Now, wait a minute. I mean, how can a Moabitess come into the lineage of God's people to win Jesus? I mean, is that right? Is that fair to the Israelites? That God would let